let's jump into programming. So let's plug this sucker in. Usually when you start it up the first time, now I had this one started once before, it will say 99, and what you do is press start to make it stop doing that. It'll go to 88, and then you hold down the up key, and that'll make it go to 0. And so that's the 99 and beeping. That tells you also that this timer is brand new, or at least it's been reset, because there's also a way to reset it, all the factory settings, and I will get back into that. But first off, let's enter programming mode. So you hold down the start button, then the up key button together. Bam. And it'll say 0.1. That means parameter 1. Parameter 1 is your studio address. So that's your room number that the Tmax manager is going to pick up. And this is the way that it understands what room, which room is what. It's not by the location of the actual room or how it's wired in. It is this number here. So in this case here, we have it as number 2, but you can change it to whatever you want. Let's say it's here for number 3, and see how it's flashing. That's after we press the start button. That allows you now to program parameter 1, and now press start, and it stores and goes back to showing parameter 1. And moving on to the next one here. This is not so much used anymore, but it's still out there. It's still out there. It is the beep mode. Once you press this, if you put that to 1 to active like this, now it will slice the time, and by the time that you reach half of the session that you sent, let's say you sent 10 minutes, after 5 minutes the timer will start beeping and send out a signal here on the speaker output. Well, you do have to set also what's called parameter 20 to 1 to activate the speaker output, but the feature will be open that now you have for a high pressure bed, it will slice the time in half and beep a half time when this parameter 2 is active. Number 3 is your delay time. That's the time you have to get undressed, get your lotion on and all that before the time starts. And so that can be set in here. We have it here for 5 minutes. You can put it to whatever. It's actually default by 3 minutes coming out of the box, but I usually put it to 5. You can put it all the way up to 10 minutes of time before the machine starts. All right, and then store that. That was 6 minutes we have it for, and then we have a bunch of counters. So 5 is the session counts. That's how many times the session has been started. The next one, 6 is your lamp hours. 7 is the total bed hours. So 6 is resettable for your lamp hours. I don't know very many that uses this. I mean, you can retrieve this information also through your Tmax manager. You can access all these parameters through your Tmax manager and ask for them. But most people use softwares like Salon Touch or Sunlink, and to accumulate their hours within that software. It's just more intuitive that way. But you can use it through here. Absolutely, absolutely. And so let me just get straight to 9. That's probably the most important as far as programming. It says it's 1, and that's by default. That means that the clean room function is active. What that means is that by the end of every session, instead of going to 0, it will go to 2 little dots. And so you have to press the up key in order to reset it so it shows 0. And why would you want that? That is to make sure that the bed gets cleaned, because also not only will it show these 2 dots, it will also send the information to the front desk, to the Tmax manager, that it's dirty, that this room is dirty. And then once you hit it up and it goes to 0, it will go to ready. So let me move up to 13. That is your cooldown block. That's not in use by default. It's at 0. But here you can put in an amount of minutes that where you cannot send new time, even though you have cleared the bed after dirty, it will still say cooldown on your Tmax manager. And why would you want that? That is to make sure that that the cooldown time is being kept. It could be that the bed really needs some extra time to cool down in order to get the next client in. So if you have employees and they're under pressure, they might want to get somebody in sooner and start the time, and that could cause maybe some equipment problems. And so that's how you would program that. So that's in parameter 13. And then let me jump way forward here up to 20. That's that was the external speaker output here on the back. If you want to activate that, and then pause mode is on 21. Pause mode, if you activate that, that means that even if the customer pauses the session by pressing the start stop button, or if they use the external start in some way is pausing the tanning bed, the time will still count down. This feature is not active by default. It's at 0. So by default, if somebody presses the pause button, then the time will also pause. So, but you have the ability to change that if you want to. Let's see here. I want to just skip right to 25, which is also interesting because here you could potentially put this timer inside of a tanning bed without even showing, because you have the external start, but still you want maybe additionally also you want the clean room function to be available to you. And so when activating parameter 25, like I've done there, putting it to 1, you now can clear the clean room by hitting the start button. You will have to hit it a couple of times, like 4 or 5 times to do it, but that's just the way that the timers are now. All the new IntelliTan timers for the Ergoline equipment, same way, which is also made by ADI that makes Tmax. So it's just the way it is. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, but a couple of times and you're good to go. So that's quite a nice feature. And so to get out of programming mode like I just did there is just holding down the up and down key at the same time, and that will make you go right out of it. So let's go through the different systems. So what we've been talking about is the Tmax manager control. And so where we have a Tmax manager connected to the first room with one of these guys here, bam, and then from there on to the next timer, to the next timer, to the next timer, and make sure that everybody has their own room number. If you have duplicates, meaning you have 2 room 2s, or then you have issues and they will cancel out themselves or do weird stuff. So important that they all have a unique address. Another way to use this timer that I talked about a little bit about in the beginning is that you can use this timer here to control another timer from there's also Tmax. And so what you will do is address the timer in the room to room number 1, address number 1. So that was parameter number 1. So back into a programming start stop, and then hold down the up key when you're at 0, and here's 1, that is your room address, and then you hold that down, and then you'll go to 1 and program that, bam. So that will be what you got to do in the room. Now then you need to program the one at the front desk that is going to be plugged together, and then you plug one end in into one timer and the other end into the other timer. But before you do that, you program the one at the front, and you program that to 0, room number 0. And that's going to make it now look for a room number 1 to communicate with. So let's store that and get out of it. And now you can see this timer is showing 8. And once in a while, it will beep and alert, hey, I'm doing something here. And what it's doing is that it's looking for another timer. But let's get back out of that. So hold down the start, stop, and the up key. Parameter 1. Start, stop button flashing. That makes we can change it. Let's get back to that we are room number 3 again. Bam. And then up and down key to get out. Okay. So that was the master-slave function. And if you use an IntelliTan timer for this one to communicate with, make sure you go into parameter 27 of that IntelliTan timer and make sure that that's number 1 set to 1, because that's the Tmax protocol. 0 would be the IntelliTan protocol, and this guy is not going to understand that. And so lastly is the cheap way of doing stuff, but it works, and that is that you can use one timer at the front desk to actually start an older tanning bed that doesn't have an internal timer in the room. And so what you will do is that you will run a wire that is rated for the kind of voltage that control voltage is running on. So like say a Sonnenbrand, which is running a 120 switch leg, you will need to run a wire rated for that voltage. And so you run that to the J3 contactor so that this guy here can start the tanning bed from up there, and then you put a push button of some kind in the room and connect that to the external start. And then you go into your parameters and make sure that parameter 25 is now set to 1. And so that now you're able to use the start, stop, and the clean room function and all that good stuff. Good luck with your programming out there. Rescue Your Tanning Bed, a book written to primarily salon owners, but certainly also if you own a tanning bed in your home, this can be quite advantageous to go through what your tanning bed like as an environment. That's what we're getting into in this book, as far as electricals, cooling, cleaning the machine, and why we do that, why it also has a technical effect to the equipment, troubleshooting tips, how you keep track, and logically moving forward towards a solution. All these things are things that we're getting into in this technical service and repair guide here. And thanks for watching.